We're back, baby. It's the Charity Stripe. Pitch your free throws because they are free March 6th, 2023.
You said like it's a question. You don't know the day?
Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I just go for it, but I think I hit it.
I think you did.
It is March 6th.
Nice. Wild weekend in sports. Wild Monday. Let's start it off with the good, I guess, in sports. Nick, you're rocking your Saints shirt over there. Shout out to your girlfriend, Britt, who is a Saints fan. Derek Carr, rumored to have signed a 4-year, $150 million deal with the New Orleans Saints to be their quarterback.
It's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money for Derek Carr. And the Saints are one of those teams that are not on the upper echelon of cap space. So, in fact, they're in the basement. So they're going to probably have to make some moves, whether it's,
And not the Victorian basement.
Not the Victorian basements. They're going to have to make a move to get rid of maybe Kamara, Michael Thomas. They're going to maybe restructure Marshawn Lattimore's contract.
Michael Thomas has got to be gone.
They have to cut Jameis. They're going to have to really free up some cap space in order to make room for Derek Carr. And plus, they're going to hit some home runs in the draft. Because still, even with Derek Carr, I don't know if they have the best roster in the NFC South.
Yeah, I mean, I think right now that goes to the Bucks.
Still.
Yeah, but they also need to cut some cap as well.
Mm-hmm. And I think they're in a position where they have to go after Lamar Jackson.
Definitely.
Now the Saints have kind of raised the stakes as far as quarterbacks go.
Yep.
And pushed the needle there.
Yep.
Do you feel like they've truly raised the stakes?
I mean, they've made a move. They've pushed the envelope a little bit. I mean, the Bucks, I don't think can get. I don't know. Maybe Kyle Trask is the guy. I really don't.
It's
think
the best
so.
quarterback they've had since they've had Drew Brees. So.
Yeah, but then kind of like the thought I had in the car was
I don't necessarily think we felt that. We all were pretty high on Jameis. And not to say that we thought he was a better quarterback than Derek Carr, but
but Carr's been more proven in his career than Jameis has.
For sure. I mean, yeah, Jameis
Definitely.
threw 30 picks one year. I don't think Dalton was that terrible last year, though. So I'm curious to see how much of an upgrade is Derek Carr.
It's an upgrade.
I know it is an upgrade, but the way they're paying him and what he's billed to be, it has to be an astronomical upgrade. And I don't necessarily know if it is.
I mean, what does he do better than Andy Dalton? Just like outright that we know off,
Throws,
Turn
runs.
the ball over.
Does he runs better than Andy
Andy
Dalton?
Dalton? Yeah, for sure.
Is Derek Carr like a mobile quarterback?
He's more mobile than Andy Dalton.
They can move. I mean, my thing is like
Andy Dalton moves decently.
I feel like Dalton turns the ball over as a propensity for that. I do think
Carr turned the ball over a lot this past year.
Then why are they doing the move?
I'm just saying,
Then why are they doing this? Like, there's no point. I mean, like, I don't know if this is a franchise-changing move in that case. No. So to me, this is kind of just like, hey, let's get a guy in there and hope he's better than Andy Dalton, which I don't necessarily know if this.
Or how much better is he than prime Andy Dalton? Because Andy Dalton's older than
Who
Derek
else would
Carr.
they have gotten? You think? Saints, like, they're not going to get Rodgers.
No.
They're not going to take one of these guys in the draft. They don't have a high enough pick.
So we're just middling to middle then.
Yeah.
What else are they going to do?
Yeah, but I mean, people do it. I mean, we've had this discussion in the NBA, and like people just do it to kind of stay afloat, and people just do it in baseball to kind of stay relevant. Just make these moves, and it's like, why are you doing this? The Saints giving Derek Carr 4 years, $150 million is kind of absurd, especially when he failed in Vegas with it. Well, you could blame McDaniels all you want, but he had arguably the best receiver in football. He had the league-leading rusher, and he couldn't get it done in Las Vegas.
Yeah, I mean, their team though always collapses. It's not just his fault.
So how much better is the Saints?
And he's in a treacherous division too in the AFC West.
Yeah, I mean the NFC South is a lot easier, but I don't.
It makes sense.
Saints have a way better defense.
It makes sense for Derek Carr. I just don't like. I'm not disappointed if I'm the Saints. It's again like I agree. It is an upgrade from Andy Dalton. My larger point was just like how substantial is that upgrade? And my second thing to bring up is contractually I don't actually think it's that bad because the cap is going to move in 4 years. Like every single QB that's a top 15 QB is going to be making more than $50 million a year.
Yeah.
So it's more my biggest question is why. What are we really doing? Like, what's the end goal for this team? What's the franchise goal for this team? And I don't think that I'm moved by this Derek Carr signing.
They're still going to have to have a good draft. Like I think the defense
and like you said, be very clever with the restructuring to make sure that they can pay the core foundational pieces for their future that they need.
Well, they have to get out of the Kamara contract. They have to get rid of the Michael Thomas contract. They have to get out of the Jameis contract. Those are all massive contracts that they're, stuck under. I don't even know how they're going to even do this contract. They're so far under the cap already. Like, they're just bringing in another massive deal. So I think you could look for those guys to be cut, moved in some capacity. But I think that they think that, okay, they have Olave, which don't have to pay yet, and he's a true number one receiver. Maybe they get another guy in the third round, they could take a flyer on that could be a good number 2, and really hit in the first couple rounds in the offensive line or on defense. So
let me ask you a couple questions really quickly about Derek Carr. Was he or was he not a guy that you were saying is becoming a top 15, top 10 quarterback as of like a year ago?
I thought he was.
He's not a top 10 quarterback.
I'm not saying he is.
I don't think he's becoming that.
I'm not saying he is either. I'm just saying he said.
Yeah.
I'm trying to like paint a picture here because people believe in him a little bit, right? Has he been the starting quarterback on a lot of people's fantasy teams?
Kinda.
Here and there, right?
Here and there.
There's belief.
I think people believe in him clearly. He just got $150 million.
So maybe they're thinking to themselves, okay, hey, look, the Raiders, it's kind of a train wreck over there. We don't blame that didn't have a ton of success there. But you know what? You were their guy for your entire career. You weren't necessarily benched besides the end of this year for like the last 2 games. You had injuries here and there. A couple injuries away from potentially, making a run the playoffs when he broke his ankle and they were supposed to make a run there and he was having a great season. Now, get a change of scenery, right? Get some fresh weapons, get a fresh look, perspective, new coaching system, new offense. To me, besides via trade for Lamar or Aaron Rodgers, he's the best available option out there. Yes. I mean, there's not really any other guys out there that have started as many games as him, that have won as many games of him.
I just think
at a cost.
Yeah, look, you're 100% right. If the Bucs go get Lamar, then they're screwed because that team, if both guys are healthy, the Bucs are going to dominate the Saints.
I just don't know how the Saints could have even gone out and got Lamar. We're talking about cap space,
cap space. That'd
be a $45 million hit to their cap, right? And they'd also have to move draft capital that we're just talking about right now that they desperately need.
Oh, they couldn't have done it.
They couldn't have done it.
Yeah, no way. They couldn't.
Same thing with Aaron Rodgers.
To me, if you're asking me, because you bring up the middling, if you were asking me what I would have done, I would have been realistic about my situation and been like, we're a team that needs to probably rebuild a little bit. We're not a team that, Derek Carr does not make us a Super Bowl contender. Are they a top 5 team in the NFC with Derek Carr?
No.
Because Aaron Rodgers is still in Green Bay. The Vikings, the Lions.
Did you not pick them last year, though, to be in the Super Bowl?
Yeah, I was wrong. Happens.
But, I think there's a solid foundation there.
There is a solid foundation, but I look at the Eagles, what they have. Yeah, they're going to lose some guys. I still think they're better. I think the Giants are in a position. We'll see what they do with Daniel Jones' contract. If they pay him the $45 a year, which would be a bit egregious and presumptuous, but they could be in a position to make some moves. The Cowboys are definitely better than the Saints. Mm-hmm. The Commanders and the Bucs are QBs away. We like the Lions, the Vikings. I'm not even in the West yet. So I think, look, do I respect them trying to go for it? Yes. Was this the best guy available outside of Rodgers and Lamar and cost you? Everyone's going to cost you money. So this is probably the most cost-friendly guy to get of those 3. I just don't know if it's enough, and I think they'd be in a position to rebuild still in a couple years. But
we'll see.
We'll see. All right, let's go to the NBA. Ja Morant is now going to be away from the team indefinitely with the Memphis Grizzlies. To me, he should be suspended for the rest of the season.
Yeah,
I don't think it's a no-brainer to me in a league that's, first of all, the league is so anti-gun violence. Our country is decimated by gun violence more than any country, in the world, probably outside of the Middle East. So, and this guy is now a face of Powerade. He's a face of Nike with his new shoe. We shouldn't baby him. This should be, it shouldn't be a slap on the wrist. The 2 games that they initially, had was ridiculous. This guy's, with the mall, what happened in the mall with the mall cop, what happened with the guy allegedly in the basketball court. Now he's brandishing a gun at a strip club. This is supposed to be a face of the franchise, face the NBA, model for the youth.
Yep.
And
the implication that he also, because of where he was, had to have traveled with the gun too. because it was on the road trip, which
Yeah.
means he took it on a team plane.
Yeah. And flaunted it on his Instagram Live, which is so stupid. But
I mean, didn't even look cool.
look, at the end of the day, like the NBA, we've always talked about how they're role models for these young kids, right? Like as athletes, you're a role model. And he's one of the younger superstars in the NBA that I'm sure many high school kids, middle school kids idolize, look up to, right? Like that's their guy right now. You know, like obviously there's LeBron, but you know, that's our generation. I'm sure those kids respect LeBron, but Ja Morant's in his early 20s. Like he relates to these kids. You know
he's
what I mean?
23.
Like 23 years old. So like right now, that's their Kobe. That's their like LeBron. That's their guy right now for the young kids, and sets a terrible example. You know, like that you can just flaunt a gun, right? And obviously, you know, he's young, makes stupid choices and stuff. But look, people have talked about how like he didn't come from a tough upbringing. Like, you know, there's guys that have worse upbringings in the NBA who aren't doing that, who are smarter than that. Like someone went out and said, you know, Dame came from a worse neighborhood and, you know, was surrounded by that type of stuff his entire life. And
DeMar
you don't
DeRozan,
see
remember
him
when
acting
he
like
said
that. Exactly.
I mean, to me,
Yeah, I don't. It's not really about that for me, at least. Like, we don't. I don't think it's a productive exercise to get into like a comparative background check on like every single guy in the NBA to say like, where did you come from and how did you get there? Like, I think it adds context to like an individual and like why they might make certain choices and why they might not make certain choices. I think ultimately like what's most important is what you said, is that he's a role model and he's representing, just by nature of what his job is, he represents a team and a league. And he also, you know, based off of other partnerships that he's accumulated and brought on for himself as an individual, like can represent brands in other ways. And I'm certainly seeing a lot of like discourse and dialogue about supporting him, which I think in helping him and like providing that support and surrounding him with the right people. Like that's been like a lot of the conversation is like he doesn't have the right people around him, which maybe he does, maybe he doesn't.
Well,
Ultimately,
he clearly doesn't. If one of the incidents I didn't even list was the whole laser pointer thing with the Lakers from his car.
Yeah, but my point is that
And his
like
dad thinking he's one of the
ultimately like
boys.
he's his own man. Like he makes the decisions for himself. Like I
He's
get
not
that
surrounding
like
himself with the right crew.
yeah, but like sure. I just think that like that's such a small aspect of it, and like everyone is seemingly like harping on very specific things about like it's that he's like I get that that's a factor, but I think that what I'm trying to bring up is that like I'm glad that he's taking time away. I'm glad that like his coach is giving him the grace to like not set some sort of parameters on like he has to be back. There will be like professional obligations and implications of how long he's going to be gone. And this is a team that's the number 2 team in the West. So like that's going to be a really interesting story that's going to continue to unfold into the playoffs. They also just lost Brandon Clark from injury too for the rest of the season. So he's out. They need this guy, right? He's their
Dylan Brooks
superstar.
is suspended. I mean, I couple things though. It clearly matters who he's surrounded himself with because yeah, we don't have to do a background check on everybody, but if he didn't come, you know, from this kind of background, he's now acquired these people in his posse.
Yeah.
So now that he's got.
Yeah, I just don't think it's like oh, we can say like this person had a harder upbringing than this person and this
No.
like, but that doesn't matter at the end of the day.
I think
he
the
wasn't. He didn't
context-
grow up like this.
I think the context of that is like, look, some guys they grow up with a gun in their family or their house, right? Like when they're 14 years old, like they come from an area where that's like normalized, right? Ja Morant, that was not normalized for him at all. So at some point he picked up this trait or this, you know, reason to pick up a gun. And I think maybe that just could be like
yeah,
the
but
whole
what how much of that do we really know? Like us, like as the three of us, how much do
we don't
really
know that he didn't grow up with a gun in his house, so we don't know that, you know, this wasn't normalcy for him. But based on what we
That's
heard,
kind of my point is like, I feel like there's so much speculating that's done that it's like, how is that really productive? What's productive is like having a conversation or the right people having a conversation with him to say like, look, man, like you represent so much more than just like you represent so much more than the average Joe. Like you are that important in so many different ways. And not only like as, you know, a professional basketball player, but as a young black man, like in, you know, modern society, like and what that means and like how everyone, there is an unfair, like microscopic limelight on this guy. I'm appreciative that like people like Jalen Rose are saying like, look, like we need to support this guy, because I think that's the way that we should look at like a lot of these kind of scenarios. Like a lot of people are bringing up like how Kyrie was treated during, everything that went down with him in comparison to how Ja is being treated. And obviously it's very, very different, right? They're also very different guys. They're different ages. But Nick, you sent us a really cool story about Kyrie, about a guy that played with his dad that I think like we didn't necessarily know about, where he lost his mom when he was 10 years old. Like that context is really, really helpful. And it provides a lot of insight. I can imagine it being a massive challenge for any one of these guys just to deal with what they have to deal with, the pressures. But I am of the mindset that like ultimately, like he put out that statement. I think it read right. It looked like he's concerned with taking care of the right things, but he has to get it done. And he has to do the work.
He's lucky.
He has to prove that he is actually trying to be a better role model.
He's lucky that this is the NBA where the players and former players support each other like that. Because if this was the NFL, like Damon Arnett.
Done for the season.
Damon Arnett got cut from the Raiders for flashing a gun on Instagram Live. If I was doing that, if I went away this weekend and I was, throwing a gun around on Instagram Live like that, I'd be fired. He's lucky.
Maybe, but
maybe
you'd be fired. It depends on the job.
He's lucky. He's lucky, in my opinion. I think what he did was so stupid and so unnecessary. I mean, I'm glad he's getting help, and I'm glad the rest of the NBA is being supportive, and I think he's very lucky that the people are coming around him better than they did for Kyrie to get him help. But even Kyrie, like as crazy as we've said he is, as damaging as some of his Instagram posts have been in our eyes, I think this is even worse to me. Like this country is so.
I don't think it's even comparable. It's definitely worse.
What's comparable, dude?
Is it?
Yeah, it is in some capacity. Yes, it is comparable.
I would say that
Kyrie put like with the documentary that he was professing on his Instagram was harmful. I mean, bro, like they were videos outside the Barclays Center with people like, championing him afterwards, saying that they should, kill Jews. I mean,
yes,
it's
but
comparable.
I think, well, my counter to that is one is a potential incident of violence coming from one individual.
It's worse. I don't think Kyrie was necessarily trying to get that message across because I don't think he's a violent person. But I don't think what he did was bad for sure. And I think what Ja Morant, I'm saying, is worse. But I think it's comparable in some sense because both don't promote they both promote some kind of or enable some capacity for violence. Like Ja Morant's not shooting people; he's just flashing a gun.
Right, but if you have a gun, then the gun can go off. The gun can be shot.
It's
a very different.
That's why
it's a very different scenario.
Worse, I'm saying,
and I just like. I think it's very different. Also, like with the light, that one's like life-threatening, like potentially life-threatening to people in a moment in an actual place, like when they were in the cars and the Escalades.
It's worse. I think he's lucky, like with everything that's come out.
These are compounded things, like
the mall.
Yeah,
what happened on the basketball court when an underage kid he flashed a gun on.
Yeah,
he's lucky. I'm telling you, this guy's lucky, man. I hope he comes back and changes. And I have a Ja Morant shirt. I love Ja Morant as a player, but like what he's done. Again, with the gun violence in this country, and for a league that's been so anti, like LeBron James would never in 9 million years do this. Like, people get on Draymond Green for being an aggressive player and aggressive. Never in 9 million years would Draymond Green do something like this.
He did punch his teammate in the face,
and would not flash a gun on Instagram Live. It's so stupid and so unnecessary, and I hope he changes. Because there are a lot of young eyes on him.
Yep.
Yeah. If you don't change in a week, like that's not like
no,
yeah.
You don't change in a week. But I think he should be out for the rest of the year. It's not that many games left. It's not like we. Well,
that's like the interesting thing is like how long does it take? If we get into like a really nuanced conversation, it's like how long does it really take for you to change? How long does it take for you to like add this perspective?
Well, I guarantee he won't do that again.
I certainly hope not. Like for the sake of being able to,
you have to be next level stupid to do that again.
Yeah, I want to watch him. I want to watch him as an NBA player. I love watching him. He's got a great game. Like he is making the NBA more exciting when he's out on the court.
He deserves another chance and another opportunity. So, I just don't. I think he should be.
And
out
he's gonna get it. Obviously, you think? Yeah. Either way, like even if he does come back in the playoffs, has this railroaded the season enough where it's like they're for sure out of contention?
I mean, they are not beating the Phoenix Suns. I think you saw that yesterday firsthand.
Yeah.
I mean, I
don't know if they're going to beat y'all.
I wouldn't.
I don't think
I
this
would.
team
I
was
would take
gonna-
us in a
I
series.
I don't
this
think they're
team
going to
was
beat the
gonna
Clippers. Yeah.
I don't think they were going to contend regardless.
So there we go. I think they need to get this is a young, fiery team, but I think this is a
Well,
unfortunate reality check.
They
for this
heel
franchise.
turned like real quick.
They heel turned, yes, but it went
As a
from
team, no one likes their fan base right now. Like
it went from cute and fun for the NBA to like, all right, we got to pull this thing back a little bit, real quick.
yeah.
We'll close that out in a positive, I guess. John Jones is back, and that was talk about quick. I mean, that was blink of the eye.
I feel like it was
literally looked away for 2 seconds to ask someone a question, and if I was over. I literally missed this.
Did you see the tap though? Did you like watch?
Yeah, I
clip?
watched the replay. But
Do you
like,
feel like it was
He practiced the move with
a quick tap though?
no, but he I forget who was training. He was one of the he was trying for blank. He trained with someone. I saw the video today. He was training with somebody, and they showed him literally like this. You might get in this position with this guy, and if you do X, Y, and Z. And there was like I think it was Henry Cejudo. Like it was him, and they were up. They showed like a clip of the tap out and a clip of Henry Cejudo, showing John Jones like what the situation he might get in. It was T for T. I mean, Cejudo is one of the greatest of all time. T for T. Like that's exactly what happened. And John Jones is such a good wrestler, and so Cyril Gane he's like not a heavyweight champion.
he made Drake $1 million.
Yeah,
Drake put down $250 to win $1 million on John Jones win by submission.
and John Jones knockout, so he gets the 250 knocked off from that. But I mean, a great bet by Drake.
Well, he missed on the Jake Paul bet.
Yeah.
He's
hit or
become has he
miss.
become like the most
Fadeable, yeah.
just like followed like big better out there?
Him or Mattress Mac.
Match Smack, yeah.
Him and Match Mac are the biggest betting influencers out there for sure. Drake throws down, and that's just the stuff he shows us.
I feel
Right.
like he's been pretty, and the stuff. But he always teases, like he says who he's got before.
Yeah, no,
He's not like an after the fact. Oh, I
know.
hit this and I missed.
I know, but he's saying the stuff that he shows us as in like what he goes to the casino and what he bets on, or like what his daily sports bets are, like what are his 5 picks of the day.
He might not he could bet on something tonight. You won't even know.
I saw a video
sure
of
he
him
is.
at a roulette table hitting like a 30-1 odds, with like winning like 7 million one time, and he was just like, yay.
But I do appreciate that he's not just like after the fact being like, oh, here's the ticket.
Not Nelson cruising this thing.
Like, oh, I hit again. Like,
Yeah.
I hit this massive payout. It's like, no, I'm betting on Jake Paul. You're gonna know a day before how much I put down.
Oh, no, he's
like,
like- he's-
you know what I mean? Where
he's
it's not like, where it's not
entertaining
just
it.
like, oh, I hit on every single bet that I do. Because he could.
What was the Nelson Cruz reference to? I don't get that.
that me calling the Nelson Cruz thing and
Oh.
it was an inside joke between the three.
Got it,
Sorry,
got it,
I kinda
got it.
flew under the
What's
radar.
we gotta explain this. So that the
So
listeners
I
know.
said that I was harping on my ability to kind of have
Find
a good
untapped
eye,
talent.
find top
You're a
talent,
better
breakout
ML
player,
MLB
breakout players in fantasy
scout.
baseball.
Yeah. Yes.
I'm a good fantasy baseball scout, and I said that I threw out a couple guys that I called, and you guys called try to call me out on the Nelson
He basically
Cruz.
said that Nelson Cruz was going to be good before he got good.
No, I think
I thought he was going to be a fantasy baseball star before he was a fantasy baseball
I just
star.
Back
think
in
Nick,
02.
I just think like Nick.
02?
Our counterpoint was like we were like 12 years old when this was happening.
I think it
which
was
is like
I think it was more like 10 or like 9 years old.
No, I don't think it was the case.
He's like 40 years old.
Yeah, but he broke out when he was like in his like late 20s, 30 years old. He broke out like 10 years ago, 12 years ago.
But that's not a rarity for guys to
No, I
bloom
mean,
late, especially international guys.
Jose Batista, which I didn't call. Like it could happen.
I called
but
that one.
on the John Jones bit. I mean, it's Francis Ngannou's going to be the real fight. Cyril Gane was
yeah.
never going to. He's like not like a champ.
You
know what I'm
already
saying?
you already see the blood in the water too. They're already going at it on social media. I mean, I feel like a lot of it sometimes is orchestrated, where like the UFC PR people are like, okay, like Ngannou, you got to put out a tweet about John Jones. John, you got to respond aggressively. Like we want to hype this up as much as possible.
Might not even be them actually doing it.
No, John Jones in the
No,
presser
John Jones said
he
called him
out.
Yeah,
he was ready
big,
to go.
Big P word.
I'm just saying, like a lot of these guys have teams that like handle
Sure.
their social and stuff like that.
Sure.
I think John Jones. Yeah, but I do think John Jones in some instance he's kind of a nutcase.
I think
Not kind of. He is.
I think
Wait,
that
what?
he's
Yeah.
respected amongst everyone in UFC, However, I think he's disliked amongst many in UFC just
Right.
because he's crazy.
It's just such a weird situation that like we haven't really seen in many other sports where like a guy takes that big of a break, and for a variety of different
Tiger.
reasons.
You've seen it. Michael Jordan didn't play basketball for 2 years.
It's not this. His is way longer though.
3
John
years.
Jones?
3 years.
Which is just 3.
3 years. John Jones.
Yeah, but Jordan's like trying to play baseball, and it's like
John Jones.
Tiger?
Tiger. I mean, guys like, yeah, I think John, as far as an individual sport goes,
But golf is a different physical sport.
Yeah.
Like
I
the
think
physicality of golf is so vastly different than UFC, where it's like if you're not, you barely get to fight very often anyway. You barely
Right.
get to actually compete.
But I mean, he's
In the
sparring.
sport.
He's sparring like every week, and he's getting in shape, and like I mean,
well, he's
his
he went up
regiments.
a weight class.
I know.
I
it's crazy.
guess. He doesn't look
was
like the
eating.
John Jones of old though.
He was huge.
I mean,
He's like he's kind of thick.
Yeah, he had to eat a bunch.
to show you how good his ground game is.
Cut the cocaine out of his diet.
Cut the cocaine out of his diet. His ability to use his body is unbelievable, and throw his weight around at any weight class clearly is unbelievable. I mean, we saw Israel Adesanya go up a weight class to fight Jan Blachowicz, he's a better fighter, pound for pound than him, no questions asked, every day of the week and twice on Sunday, and he lost.
Yeah.
Like
Well, that's the
John
interesting-
Jones, Cyril Gane he was out from the jump. I mean, Nick, you said you turned away. The fight was over, and I was like kind of trying to follow on my phone. I was on a date. I was like trying to follow on my phone to see if I could. Sam went to the bathroom, and I looked at my phone. I was like, saw the highlight, done, put my phone away, easy. Like,
But Ngannou, that'll be really interesting because obviously like
Come back from injury as well.
coming back from injury, but he's always been that size.
yeah. So I think John Jones getting in a striking match with Ngannou is kind of dangerous.
Here's the thing.
I think if he goes to the ground, I think Ngannou's
Ngannou's lost multiple times before. John Jones has never lost.
No, I mean we might see it.
His one L is a dispute.
Yeah, is DQ. I think this guy might be, if he could beat Francis Ngannou, he might be tossed into the top 5 most dominant athletes of all time.
Sure.
Because he dominated the light heavyweight and goes up to heavyweight,
Yeah.
and he's beaten the
It's
guy.
different than Habib because Habib just basically did his weight class and that's it.
Yeah,
Undefeated, but little guy can't really move up.
I would need
in
to
weight
see
classes.
him come back and just take on a few guys. and
Yeah,
really
but
cement
John
himself.
Jones has done it, like you're saying, at different weight classes.
Yeah, there's no. I mean, Khabib is both of them, and
Is that now is that a requirement in combat sports to be considered
It's like a new
a
challenge.
GOAT, where it's like you have to leave and then come back? You have to be away from the sport. You have to get older and then come back
Oh,
as
you're
like a
saying
vet.
he's
in
gonna
sports
come
in
back.
general.
Just not in sports in general, because I think there's certain limitations to that, but like it's just so impactful where, we were talking to people at Super Bowl, like we've talked to people about John Jones all the time. Like for most guys our age, like he was the guy that we watched growing
Yeah.
up. But like he kind of gets forgotten a little bit, at least over the last 3 years, because he wasn't competing. And
Well-
I'd still would say when I watched him, he's the GOAT.
Yeah. Well, I mean, don't get it twisted. Like UFC is a huge entertainment, industry. So, building the suspense and building that, oh my God, it's the return is so much of the storyline as the fight is. Conor McGregor making a return. He's not as dominant, obviously, but that fight gets so hyped up because he's taking time off and he was the guy. He was
Tyson
the face.
Fury.
Tyson, yeah,
I'm
exactly.
retired. I'm back.
Right, exactly. So
Feel
yeah,
the time.
I think you're right. In combat sports, it's definitely more recognizable. It's definitely more, common.
And there's a massive risk there because when Connor comes back and he came back the first time and he wins, right, against Cerrone, against Cowboy. Wasn't that his first one back?
I don't even. He came.
But he also
left,
came back and got his ass kicked. So it's
he beat the crap. out of
Poirier's dope though.
Dustin Poirier beat him too. Yeah, he's by the time Connor had
but there's so
left
many
to
variations of
box,
you
he
come
was-
back and who are you coming back against?
Right.
You come back and you beat someone who's not that great and it's okay, we got to see it then.
which is
what we're
going
gonna
to
see with Jones now.
I think Jones walked into a really nice situation.
Yeah, Cyril Gane's not a guy that you're I mean, he was the champ, but he's not a guy that you were Cyril Gane. He's
He wasn't though because
He wasn't-
Francis
he's the number
Ngannou-
one. He was
Yeah,
number one. Sorry.
because Francis Ngannou is a champ.
right.
So if Francis Ngannou comes back, and I would love for France to get a tune-up. opportunity. I don't want him to go right into John Jones.
I feel like
Me
they
neither.
both could use one more tune-up.
For sure.
that'd be
100%.
Exciting to see. Well, great weekend in sports, guys. Great start to the week in sports. We'll be back tomorrow. Daily Stripe. See you guys next time at your free throws.